Peeps, we here yet? Oi. Oi. Hello. Hello, I'm here. Hello. We made it. Man, that was a frenzy. Get ready. But I'm here. And I made it. I'm happy to be here with you. I can unwind. I've been to the gym. I got back. My shirt is like all verklempt and turned around and stuff, but oh well. What are you going to do? Good to see y'all. Somebody say something so I know it's working. I see some people here, though. Hey, Chris, says Peter. What's going on, Peter? Thanks for being here, buddy. Sam says, how you doing, brother? Rafarni says, yay. T Soda Pop says, hey. Brett says, hey. My phone is beeping. I don't care. I don't know who it was. I moved the camera. That wasn't great. But now we're back. We're back in the land of possum water vodka. I need some... Oh, it's empty. Oh, possum. Stupid possum. Possum didn't do his thing. It's a little in here, but it's not enough to get me hammered for this hour, this possum water vodka. Brett says, Christian Kirk or Devin Singletary. I don't have an easy answer for you. I don't think that's one that has an obvious answer. I don't know what Singletary's workload is. It would be awesome if it's like it was last week. I would want Singletary, but of course we do not know if that is the case. What a bummer not to know. I think it's fine to ask the question. I don't really have an answer. I don't have a great answer for you. Man, my phone is blowing up. Time to turn the phone over. API says hello. Herman says hey. Tim says cello. Brandon says, you're working it, girl. Okay, that's fine. I got hair problems. I got hair flying off in the back. Ryan says hey. Matt says, we're out here. We're out here, damn it. He didn't say damn it. I said that. Drew said, Alvin Kamara or Dalvin Cook rest of the season. Well, Drew, it's so coincidental that you should ask that question because I have a list of rest of the season ranks. All you have to go do is HeyHarrisFootball.com. So anybody watching right now who's tempted to ask a single position question rank or a rest of the season rank, well, I've done the work for you, buddies. I've done the work for you. You can go find it yourself. Very exciting to be able to go at HeyHarrisFootball.com. I don't remember my ranks. I don't memorize them. So you're going to find a better answer at HeyHarrisFootball.com. Steven says, I'm back again. Rolando says, hello. Jerry just did this. Jerry, right back at you, buddy. Ryan says, welcome. Welcome! BD says, hey. Iron Man says, what's going on? Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on? What is going on? He didn't do it today. Mitch. I'm sure Mitch has a life and a job and stuff, so he's not paying attention to this, but very disappointed every time. I'm very wrinkly. Every time Mitch doesn't say, Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on, what is going on? Because it's the coolest thing that anybody's ever said to me, ever. Dan says, hola. Richard said, what's up? Ryan says, David Johnson or Darren Waller in the flex. Yeah, it's a great question. Can you tell me whether David Johnson's going to play? Can anybody tell me? Because that would certainly make it an easy answer for me. Then the problem, of course, with Waller is you got him in a few hours. You got to make the choice. I just don't have any more information than you do about David Johnson. It sucks. It sucks, right? We're really kind of swimming in it. How about George Kittle? That's going to be a fun one this weekend. I got traded for Kittle in a league, and it's just the eternal lament. Do you take the bird in the hand, which, if David Johnson's healthy going against Tampa Bay, you'd rather use him, clearly, but you don't know. It's tough. You might just have to take the bird in the hand, but I just don't have any more info than you do about whether he's going to play. It stinks. Jake says, pause the podcast to watch this. Am I an addict? No, you're just sane. You're just right in the head because the podcast will always be there. Although actually this video gets posted too, so it'll always be there too. However, it's not live and you get to hear me live. Man, what a treat. Peter says you should change to your footy pajamas. Peter, I'm going to say that didn't go that well. There was some this is in the Film Don't Lie group where you would think most people, people have sort of bought a book of mine to be there, or they're Patreon supporters or something, and then Sunday morning they're in the live stream and they see me in these Patriot footy pajamas and they freaking lose their mind. Now, it wasn't everybody. It was just a few people. Most people thought it was funny. But a few people could not get over themselves, and it wasn't all that pleasant or fun. I wore them because Chris Arnold, who's a listener, can't make these chats, but he comes to Sunday and he said, "Oh, I'll send you some footy pajamas." It was hilarious, right? I don't really care that much about. I live for the Patriots, but if you can't get over your dislike of another team to the point where you can't see straight, it makes you so angry to see their logo on somebody else's body that you have to freak out and say nasty things. Boy, time to rethink your priorities. Seriously, I kicked somebody completely out of that group over it, and it's what are we even doing? Think about how stupid it already is that we care about football. Then think about how stupid it is that we care about fantasy football. Then think about how angry you have to get about football and another team to freak out that much. And so I don't think those Patriot insignia footy pajamas, as funny as they were and as much of an in-joke as they were for podcast listeners, would go over well on YouTube, where some of you only know me from YouTube. You don't know me from the podcast. You're like, footy pajama, what? And the joke being that somehow I can't be objective about the Patriots because I wear the footy pajamas. It's a joke I play on myself. And then so someone sent me footy pajamas. I've been saying it for years, so I wore footy pajamas and it drove people over the edge. Whatever. But yeah, Peter, it would be a great world if I could. Dean says, nice hat. Well, thanks. Jeff says, who is your worst fantasy team this season composed of? There's an obvious answer. It's the CBS IDP League that I've been in for 3 or 4 years. I think I came in. I can't remember whether I won the consolation game or I lost the championship game. I did good. I did well last year. But this year it was Breeze. It was Barkley when he got hurt. It was Antonio Brown. It was Njoku, Darius Geis, another big injury name, a big injury receiver. But yeah, crushed. No. I think I have 3 wins, but it's a terrible team. Carrie just smashed that like button, which made me very, very healthy. Diego said, I liked as soon as I got here, so hand me a possum vodka soda and let me relax for this one. If I could, if there was a way. I mean, as you all know, the possum has become part owner of a distillery. I say part owner, it's in Kentucky, and I say part owner only because, on the lease of it and everything, he's the full owner, but we all know he's got shadowy partners who helped him finance the deal, and he better deliver some profits. So if you ever see possum water vodka out there, make sure you buy some because the possum needs the money. He would hate for me to say he's not here right now. He might actually be in the private plane going to Kentucky right now to check on the operation. He'd hate me to say this, but yeah, we have some doubts here aboard the yacht, whether it's going to work out and whether the possum's 4 kneecaps will remain intact for very long. Let's just put it that way. Bryant said, what is Dante Pettis' career outlook looking like? I mean, a lot worse than 2 months ago, but I don't think that the ability that you can't fake on film that I showed you on the channel went anywhere. He still had some nice moves on occasion this year, but they just haven't thrown the ball. At this point, I think I would be willing to conclude this is a maturity issue, a potentially not being in shape issue, a doghouse, like a sort of a perma doghouse issue where in retrospect now we can look back on it and say the 49ers seem to have done everything they could do to motivate him privately, and then Shaney Jr. tried to motivate him publicly by shaming him a little bit in public, and then it got to the point where they had to trade for a real number one. I think they thought when they drafted him in the second round and they saw what he looked like last year, they probably thought, oh boy, we got our guy. And I guess now it's a question of how the kid responds to this year, which has been, low-key one of the biggest disasters of the entire NFL season, personnel-wise, completely hidden by the fact the team's undefeated. But how good could that kid look once he came back from injury last year, flash these route running skills where you go, what? And then just do nothing and not even earn enough trust to, you wouldn't say he played badly. You'd say he never played or he never got targets. They just didn't focus on him at all, which is just as bad as a disaster. So I think, dynasty wise, stash him. Hey, let's see if he ever puts it together, because physically I think it's there, but he's not a burner, but the route running is real and legit. And we didn't imagine it, but he could just be kind of a fool. He grew up the son of a Major League Baseball player. You can invent whatever narrative you want. It's stupid for me to even bring that up. You can get a fool in any walk of life, I guess is my point. You don't have to be a fool for an economically bad reason or anything else, right? You can be a fool. And I don't know if he is. I have no idea, but that's sort of where I am on him. Let's see. Ethan says, is AJ Green droppable in 10-team leagues? I wish I could tell you. I have no idea. No idea. I mean, I'm half of a mind to be a conspiracy theorist and just say this probably isn't even an injury, and he just doesn't want to potentially hurt himself for a terrible team and go get some money next year. I have no idea if that's true. I could imagine it being that's sort of the Trent Williams type situation, right? Where now Trent Williams, after being declared healthy, had he couldn't find a helmet that didn't fit his scalp. Like, it's all nonsense. Obviously, he just never wanted to play for that team again, so they put him on IR. And I don't know what's going to happen with Green. I don't think any of us do. Is there a world where this was just a 1 week little, some of the adhesions needed to fix on my surgically repaired ankle, and now that they're torn, I miss one more game, but I'm awesome the rest of the year? Could happen. Could be. Really have no more insight than you do. So I can't tell you. I just don't have any answers because there's a category 2, right? I used to always talk about in the podcast about category 1 is stuff that we can actually observe with our own eyes and make conclusions about. And category 2 is kind of everything else. And we're all just kind of reading the same media reports, these same media reports that said someone in the Bengals organization leaked that AJ Green was going to miss 1 game or 2 games. That seems like a long time ago. And now here we are heading to week 10, and he isn't ready, whether it's for injury reasons or not. Category 2, just don't really have any idea. Stinks. Good question. Very good question. Let's see. Wilson says, thoughts on Chris Carson? Have you changed from your preseason view? To remember what my preseason view really was. I mean, so what my preseason view, no, I guess what I'll say is that on occasion, a running back can be like a baller and not really have any athletic traits that make you go, wow. I mean, Chris Carson has his size, and then everything else, it seems to me, is kind of want to, and maybe his want to is just fully off the charts. I wonder, with the benefit of looking at this dude's career at some point in the future, whether we just go, man, he found himself in the right place at the right time, and he was never a really great player, but he just found a team that wanted to run and run blocked okay, and then he found some just, he's a really strong kid, and he kind of just got a big workload, and every so often he broke into the clear. But I watch him play every single week, right? And I'm the first one to go, blah, bad take, blah, you were wrong, blah, blah, blah. I don't ever see him make a great move. I don't ever see him run fast. I just sort of see him be a power back in the most power backy sort of sense of the word. And if Rashad Penny was good, someone would have passed him, and someone would have done even more with this situation than Chris Carson. But at some point, you just go, I give up. I mean, it's how I felt with Chris Godwin. I go, it doesn't make sense. I'm watching these games. Chris Godwin is nothing like a dominant player, but he's just going to go ahead and score a touchdown at the end of each game and make it look like he's amazing. And now here we are for a couple of weeks where he's not doing that, and I go, oh, okay, well, maybe the amazing player actually was Mike Evans all along. Seattle does not have another amazing running back, that's for sure. And let me just say this. Was Marshawn Lynch ever really the fastest? Not really. Was he ever really the quickest? Certainly not. I mean, try to remember what he was like during earthquake times, not so much towards the end when he was just really slow. He was good and then was just a killer. And maybe what Chris Carson is just okay, but just a killer. There's something about him that most people don't have. It's possible. It's possible that is there that I wasn't giving him enough credit for, but boy, I don't think there's any way in the world that if you lined up all the GMs in the league and said, all right, you get to pick running backs, don't worry about salary, you just get to pick running backs. Chris Carson doesn't go in the top 15 or 20, I don't think. I think he's just a guy. You guys hearing that knocking? The yacht. There's some repairs going on the yacht. That's kind of annoying. I just don't think Chris Carson would be on that list of guys that you had to have. But he's obviously pretty good. He's obviously been good for fantasy, that's for sure. Brushing for greatness. Roll the dice with Darius Geis. See, that's a rhyme. I like that. Boy, I wish I knew. I wish I knew what Darius Geis was. I mean, what is he? He played 12 snaps or something and hurt his knee again. But sure, yeah. I mean, he was my number one waiver ad for this week. If you watch the waiver show that we did on this channel on Monday evening. You'll see, even though I didn't do a lot of film analysis because there's no film, but you'll see he was my number one waiver ad for the week in standard-sized leagues because you don't get a lot of shots at someone who is very highly regarded, and a lot of things, logic would point toward you got to see what you have in Darius Geis. Keep continuing to run Adrian Peterson out there while Peterson has played well and sort of reminds me of Chris Carson in some ways. Not spectacular, but just like a lot of want to at this point in his career. What good does that do you? You're a losing team. You're going to lose a bunch of games. It doesn't matter who the running back is. You should probably know whether you have a running back for the future. But like, I can't tell you that that's really going to happen, and I can't tell you there's any touchdowns there for him, and so I want to limit my expectations. But, yeah, I think Geis probably can be added, yeah. Let's see. M. Sloan says, looking dapper. Thank you. Let's see what we got. Jeff says, what's the nicest thing you can say about kickers in fantasy? Oh, the nice Montega says the Grim Reaper come knocking. Well, I hope not. That would be disappointing. That'd be disappointing for all of you. Imagine what you would do at 5 p.m. on Thursday with all your live stream free time. The nice thing I can say about kicker is that I don't play in a single league that has kickers anymore. I don't play in a single league. I don't even know who the kickers are. I pay zero attention. I know who freaking defensive tackles are more than I know who the kickers are. I couldn't name you more than 5 kickers in the league. I don't care about them. I mean, I care about them for the NFL teams, but for fantasy purposes, they're garbage. So the nicest thing I can say is that I don't even have an opinion on them about who's good and who's bad and who's been disappointing for fantasy because I'm not in any leagues that have them anymore. So that's the best thing. Viola, Dry Erase Girl is here. What the? Oh, what? Hey, thanks for being here. Viola James. She says, I'm pretty sure the possum is causing a ruckus. No, he's on a plane coming back from Kentucky, I think. He might be here, though. Maybe he got back. Maybe he got back early. I mean, it is a private jet. But I tell you what, he's getting in bed some nasty people. Destro says, maybe do a Damian Williams film again after this week. So I'm open to the idea. Let's see what happens. You know, of course, as with so many of these dang backfields, our issue is it's so much about what the coach decides to do, how to deploy them, much more than what they're capable of. Like, in the end, the value of LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams really isn't going to be decided by LaShawn McCoy or Damian Williams. I think we have a pretty good sense of what they are. I don't think – I'm not ruling it out. I've read it out loud because I think it's a good question. But I feel like I kind of have a handle on what Damian Williams is. He's good. He's fast. I mean, he certainly – there were a lot of guys who got in the clear last week got run down from behind. Only Tyreek Hill was catching Damian Williams from behind on that one. And that's good. That's a useful thing. He's fast. He's big, but doesn't really run big. I'm not sure I've seen anything different. I don't think the Chiefs were like, you know what? You know who we really don't know what he can do yet? Damian Williams. Like, I think they were like, LaShawn McCoy fumbled. Once we forgave him for it, LaShawn McCoy fumbled again. For a game anyway, we're punishing you, but I can't say for sure that we go to Tennessee here and we don't see McCoy again. It feels to me like that's going to be the deciding factor, which is, of course, pure category 2 and therefore extremely frustrating. This whole fantasy thing is just, over these past few years, it's just gotten even more random because so much is dependent on pretending we know what these coaches are going to do, believing that we know based on the, practice habits and the grunts and farts and whistles that come out of these coaches that this time it's going to be 18 touches Damian Williams and 15 touches LaShawn McCoy. Like, it's maddening. I wish I had better advice for you. Do you actually hear the yacht banging, or are you just taking it for granted because I'm saying it's there? Tell me if you actually hear it. Herman says, why is N'Keal Harry not on your rest of the season ranks? Well, because I only rank top 100, and I'm pretty sure N'Keal Harry wouldn't make the top 200. He's never played in an NFL game. He is absolutely not guaranteed to even be activated from IR. Maybe he has been in this past little bit here, but I don't suspect N'Keal Harry is going to contribute all that much. There's a chance, but I'm not adding him right now, that's for sure. Let's see. Rip some chords on that guitar, says Far. There's the guitar right there. Maybe a little later. Destro says, oh no, the knocking is audibly hilarious. Yeah, it is audibly hilarious. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm doing a podcast and there's banging and I'm like, I can't do this podcast right now. It was awesome. But it is, yeah, it's going on. Sweet, sweet tunes only, please. The dry erase girl actually exists. And Viola says, yacht banging. Oh my. And she blushes in the emoticon. Heard it only for a second, 5 minutes ago, says Dustin. Knock back. It's a very solid yacht. It would be tough to knock back. Let's see. What else do we have here? Christopher says, how come you keep saying on the podcast that the Lions defense is good? Well, it's not as, I mean, I think I've said it less lately, probably. I've come down from that position a little bit. I think the secondary, even without Darius Slay, is not embarrassing. Like, I think Coleman is one of the best slot corners in the league, Justin Coleman. And, there are deficiencies up front now, and the pass rush has been a problem, and maybe the linebackers aren't the fastest. I started the year expecting them to be better than they've turned out to be. Now, that said, I'm thinking about the Raider game, and it was frustrating that they couldn't get off the field. But if you're a Lion fan, that's why you're asking. Weren't there? I mean, there were so many plays right there to be made that I don't think the fact that they didn't make them wasn't about the defense being bad. It was about one dude with the ball falling in his hands to make the game-winning interception to run 95 yards for a touchdown and dropped it. So I had the Lions in that game. It was a very frustrating result. So I don't know. I agree with you that if I ever gave you the impression that I thought they were top 10 defense, and maybe I did think that at some point, I don't think that anymore. I don't think I had the Lions ranked like that to start for fantasy to start the season. I don't think I had them there, but I probably had them in the middle of the pack. And I'm with you that they've been disappointing. It's a fair point. Fair point. I will stand corrected there. So I see, again, I know people kind of join in the middle. I see people asking, hey, should I start this defense or that defense? So the thing is, I don't really have my ranks memorized. So the best thing you can do if you have a single position question, or if you're watching and you're like, that jerk won't answer my which defense should I start question. I don't know. I don't remember my ranks all the way from front to back. Go to HarrisFootball.com. Look up the defensive ranks. I've done the work for you. Just look at that's my opinion. I swear to God, that's me. I didn't do any. That's my opinion. If I just were to fire from the hip right now, it would be firing from the hip, as opposed to sitting with a spreadsheet for 6 hours and coming up with an actual order. So please do that for single position questions. Jerry says, any thought to doing some Dynasty content in the off season? Here's the thing, Jerry. I get this question a lot. I get this email a lot about, hey, why don't you do more Dynasty content? I think you're being sold a bill of goods when somebody says, we do Dynasty content. What does that mean? I look at other people's Dynasty ranks, and 5 years ago, they refused to rank Larry Fitzgerald. This year, they refused to rank Tom Brady. And I suppose it depends on the kind of Dynasty league that you're in. I just happen to think there's a hell of a lot more overlap between whatever regular Dynasty content is and what you're referring to as Dynasty content. I just don't think there's that much where you go, all right. Everybody else stop listening. What I'm about to talk about here is strictly for Dynasty people. I think that is something we certainly out there, and people have sold that as a thing. I'm going to be a Dynasty expert. Okay, yes, if you are a great evaluator of college talent, that would seem to be a little more Dynasty focused. Or if you're a Devy guy who knows the great high school recruits, fantastic. But this isn't baseball. In baseball, guys will spend 4 years in the minor leagues, and you better know who's at A-ball. In football, it's so year to year. We don't have any idea who the good young players who are in the league right now, who are bad now, who are useless now, who are not even playing now, who are going to be massive. Were we talking about DJ Chark last year? Was anybody in a Dynasty podcast? They were talking about DJ Chark in that they talk about every single young player and go, I love everyone who's 22. But nobody ever really said, and DJ Chark is the one. Instead, they just go, let's emphasize everybody who's 22 and anybody who's 30, let's laugh at and say everybody's old if you want to own them in a Dynasty League. And frankly, I love being in Dynasty Leagues and getting older players on the cheap, because this year's championship is easier to win than the one 3 years from now. I can do stuff now to help myself win. If I'm trading for, Austin Pettis right now, like last year, that would have felt kind of smart, and now it doesn't feel as smart. And I don't know how to say that in quote unquote Dynasty content. I for sure, as the second half of the year, as you know, because you listen to the show, and I'm not harshing on you at all. I wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't think it was a great question, but I just get asked it a lot. And the feeling I have is, I'll do film futures or whatever it's called, talking about young players who aren't necessarily contributing now, but have laid down some film. But like DJ Chark last year got hurt and didn't play. I don't know what you were supposed to say other than there's this guy they drafted at LSU. Kind of liked him as a prospect, but there's about 50 receivers every year that we all say we love, and I don't know if he stands apart for any of the rest of them. Next guy. Like Kelvin Harmon for Washington. Dynasty content to talk about him, what would that be? He's going to run 10 routes all year. I don't know what that content would be. I kind of liked him over, I guess, I don't know. He was kind of an okay prospect, but boy, he did nothing. On to the next guy. Like I debate the notion. I'm going on and on. I debate the notion that Dynasty content is really like a thing where you can go, now everybody else stop listening. Let's do a Dynasty segment. I feel like it's all kind of the same. Anyway. Yeah, Austin Pettis. Yeah, sorry. I realized when I said it was Austin Pettis. He was an NFL player, though. In my mind, I was trying to say, okay, it's not Gary Pettis, because Gary Pettis was his dad, a baseball player. Was it Austin? I realized it's Dante. Sorry. Let's see. Daniel says, what's your rest of the season outlook on Kyler Murray? I'm really bullish on – here's some Dynasty talk for you. I'm really bullish on Kyler Murray's future. I think he clearly has all the raw skills you want to see in someone who could wind up being really good if he stays healthy because he's little, and if he doesn't run around too much so he doesn't get smushed, and he gets some better talent around him. But this year I don't feel like my opinion has changed all that much on Murray from the very, very beginning. He's been serviceable. He doesn't seem to have a lot of upside with the system that they're running. I mean, the pro Kyler Murray arguments all summer were, well, the pace. I mean, the number of plays they're going to run, it's going to be unbelievable. And plus, they're going to be losing all these games by 1,000 points. So he's only just going to dominate in the fourth quarter for fantasy. It's going to be unbelievable. Well, honestly, none of that's been true. Lately, they haven't been trailing. They certainly weren't trailing against the 49ers for very long. They run pace, but they throw every pass 3 yards down the field. It is a maddening, very frustrating offense to watch. We all got to watch it last Thursday. I don't feel like he has that much upside. I feel like he's okay. He's sort of that middle group of quarterbacks, 12 through 20, that in any given week they could be fine. But I don't feel like he's a league winner. Maybe something changes. Maybe they take the reins off at some point in the second half. From what I've seen so far, wish they were running a more aggressive offense. The fact that they're not sort of puts the cap on it for me. All right, we're like a half an hour into this thing. I should mention the sponsor. We have audible.com today. So, for example, if you were a person of the book and you were therefore in our private Facebook group that you can only get into by being a person of the book, well, you would have seen me in my Patriot footy pajamas and been pretty embarrassed for me because it was an embarrassing look. I meant it. I accepted the embarrassment. That was okay. But the only way you can do this is to get a book of mine. So normally you'd go to Audible or Amazon or whatever, and you'd go, oh yeah, he's got 4 novels. One of them is about football. It's called Slotback Rhapsody. I did an apocalypse novel last year called Tulsa that people seem to like. There's 4 of them. And normally you just, okay, I got to shell out whatever, $10. And okay, I got it. I got this book, and now I can be a person of the book. Will you let me in the group? And I say yes, and then you're in, and you're in forever. Except right now, Audible has a free trial where if you go to it's in the show notes. I think it's audible.com, and you're using the code HarrisTube. But check out the notes. The notes has the actual code in it. They will give you – so first of all, Audible's awesome, right? They have every book basically on audiobook. They have Audible originals. So like Nick Offerman does Audible originals like bedtime stories for cynics. That's really funny. They have tons of kind of little mini podcasts, limited run podcasts that you get access to. You also get access to potentially, lots and lots of other novels, but they'll give you free books. They'll give you 1 free audiobook and I think 3 free Audible originals for doing this free trial. If you do the free trial, get one of my books, pay $0, send me the receipt to HeyHarris@harrisfootball.com, and you are a person of the book. You're in the Facebook group. Every Sunday morning, you can come ask me your flex question at noon Eastern. I will do my best to answer. A lot of times I'm like, I don't know, that's a great question. I'll talk about it a little for you, but I don't really like in this. There's too many people here. I can't answer everybody's question here. But in the Phil Don't Lie, it's a much smaller group, and I will answer your question. So if you do the Audible trial and use HarrisTube as your promo code and get one of my books and send me proof of purchase to HeyHarris or HarrisFootball.com, you're in. So plus, just being an Audible member is good. Like I would say, I'm an Audible member. Like I don't listen to tons of audiobooks, but I have some friends and I will buy their book on audiobook and listen on planes and stuff. It's great. But the real reason to do it is if you like me and you want to go do the thing. Okay, anyway, audible.com. Love it. Let's see. Jake says, is it safe to start Austin Ekeler and Melvin Gordon in one lineup in the game that's about to happen? Safe is not the word I would use because, until last week, the Charger offensive line had been offensive. It had been really, really bad. Now, the left tackle came back, and maybe that had something to do with the better performance. For sure, like something I said on the podcast today was, it's like it doesn't take an amazing football knowledge to watch a game and see when an offensive line is being pushed around. You see the line of scrimmage, they snap the ball, the offensive line either goes that way because they're doing a great job, pushing the defense and creating room, or they go that way because they're getting their butts caved in. And that the butt caving in has pretty much been the Chargers all the way through, or really not all the way through. The first month they were blocking pretty well, and now this second month and now into the third month they have been blocking quite poorly. And it coincided with Melvin Gordon coming back. So, of course, the Melvin Gordon sucks brigade gives us all sorts of stuff. So my question is, Oakland's defensive front is, I think, improving and okay and pretty good. I think the back end is where they have to be real conservative on the back end because it's not very talented back there. So, if I could have some assurance that last week wasn't a mirage against Green Bay and we were going to get some of the pushing forward, I would be okay starting both of those guys because I think there'd be enough work between the two of them that you'd get a nice, solid, good production from a running back and a half, say. My worry would be I'd be scared to put all the eggs in that basket, not knowing what other options you have, obviously. So safe isn't the word I would use. Viable, sure. Risky, of course, right? That's how I would think about it. And I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I knew. But last week was definitely, the reason Melvin Gordon started producing and the reason he wasn't producing before was not because he was bad and then turned good. It was because neither he nor Ekeler for about 3 games there could take a step without getting avalanched. And suddenly against Green Bay, it was like, whoa, we got a little bit of room here. And Ekeler didn't have as much a chance to run, but he did some damage catching the ball. And Gordon had room to run and really looked good. And his touchdown was excellent. And so I hope that's the case tonight. That would be great. Destro says, Tulsa was amazing. Y'all get it. I appreciate that. So nice of you to say. Colby says, don't forget to like the video, Fart Face Nation. Sure, we could do a little liking here. That would be lovely. We're at 198 people watching. We have 110 likes. So let's get up to 150 real quick. 150, we could do this real quick. If you're on mobile, I think you have to close the text chat and you'll see the like button and then you can reopen the text chat. We're at 118 already. We're at 125 already. Fart Face Nation coming through. I think it's more possum, children of the possum. I'm the fart face, let's face it. 136, 140. Oh, we're doing this. We are doing this. This is the best. 146 and 149, almost, and 150. Crushed it. Charles asks, with Ed Dixon coming back for Seattle at tight end, does that tempt you to slide Jacob Hollister down in your ranks a bit? thinking about using him, but Dixon gives me some pause. I mean, Ed Dixon belongs to the Darren Fells class of tight ends, for sure. He's a slow thunk who was mostly a blocker, but every so often, of course, we've seen it in his career, a long career, Ed Dixon, of usurping occasional annoying touchdowns from other better, more talented tight ends. I think probably if we were being objective, we'd say they almost don't play the same position. Ed Dixon is an inline tight end who's mostly a blocker. Jacob Hollister couldn't block if his life depended on it. He's small by NFL comparison, and he's essentially a slot receiver. But can I tell you that Ed Dixon won't Darren Fells us, won't steal touchdowns? Of course I can't. So I guess there's a little more risk, but I think I would follow up your question with a question which is meant with all the respect and love in the world, which is, oh my God, what other tight ends are you? If we're down to the point where it's Jacob Hollister, then I wouldn't say that Ed Dixon's presence changes Jacob Hollister's outlook to the extent that you go, oh, he's unusable now. I mean, he's already kind of unusable. Tight end is gross. Jonnu Smith is now so much better of an option. They have other backup dumb Ferkser type tight ends, right? Where you go, awesome, that dude's going to steal a touchdown from me. That's the worst. The answer is probably not. But of course, now Ed Dixon's destined to score a touchdown on Monday night. Of course he is. Destro says, I hope Cousin Josh is well. He is. He's planning on being on the show tomorrow. That is for sure. Tom says, how does Nick Chubb do with Kareem Hunt in the mix? It's a good question. I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but I can talk about it a little bit here too. I mean, of course, the answer is it's pure category 2. I don't know the answer. Wish I was in the coach's room because then I would be able to tell you, well, here's what the plan is. They're planning on putting him in this much. To just unpack it a little bit, there's so many variables. There's not just the variable that he hasn't played for 3 months. There's not just the variable that Nick Chubb is a really good player. There's also the variable he had surgery for sports hernia. We don't really even know how healthy he is. And, I think he hasn't been technically allowed in the team complex. I'm going to go ahead and guess they've had some contact with him to have a sense of how good he is. I'll put it this way. It's not good. There's no way to spin it that it's better that for Nick Chubb owners that it's not Dontrell Hilliard in there now. It's Kareem Hunt. Like, it's not good. The question is it nothing or is it bad? And if it's bad, how bad? And we'll have a better sense after this week. We talked about it on the podcast a little bit when we were discussing ranks. It was Heath Cummings from CBS, and we were basically kind of both, we're just going to use Chubb for a week. We're just going to go ahead and he's in both of our top 10s-ish. The Buffalo matchup, it's not great, but Buffalo has been pushed around a little bit, I would say, on the defensive line the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to use Chubb and not use Hunt, but I'm going to certainly pay real close attention, and we'll see. It isn't good. You wouldn't say, thank goodness for Nick Chubb that Kareem Hunt is back, but it might be nothing. It might be no more work than Hilliard was getting, and Chubb is fine. We'll see. Dan says, what do I do with Adam Thielen? I don't think you do anything. You're not going to play him this week. I doubt he plays this week, but I think, your options are bench him, cut him, or trade him. And cutting him makes no sense, and trading him at a reduced price doesn't make any sense. If someone wants to just come into your league and say, I will treat Adam Thielen as the number 10 receiver in fantasy right now and pay you exactly the right player to get the number 10 receiver in fantasy, I might do that. But my guess is that someone's going to come in and go, I can't treat Thielen like you normally would treat him, so here's something kind of gross. Take it for Adam Thielen. And I wouldn't do that because if and when Thielen is back, he could really, really help you. But guys get hurt. It stinks. Marcel says, what is your Super Bowl winner prediction? So I had the Patriots to start the year again. I probably still stick with the Patriots. But I think it looks a little more wide open after this past week, as you've heard me say that I did not think this was a great Patriots team, but I don't think there are any great teams out there. My prediction before the season started was Patriots-Vikings. Was that even a prediction? I bought a Vikings ticket because I liked the odds. Was that even a prediction? Maybe Patriots-Saints was really what I thought, but I didn't like the price on the Saints. I'll still say Patriots-Saints. I think the Saints are the best team right now, but I think the Patriots do this. The 8-0 thing was because of schedule. They're a good team, but they're not a perfect team and by any stretch. I don't think the defense is even perfect, let alone the offense. And then this is what they do. They figure themselves out halfway through the year. They figure it out. They're going to lose some of these games coming up. I can almost guarantee they're going to lose some of these games coming up, but they figure stuff out. And the Chiefs are interesting, but I don't trust the defense. And who else am I supposed to pick in the AFC? I don't know. I'm not going to pick the Texans. I'm not going to pick the Bills. I'm not going to pick. I don't have anybody else. Feels like to me the AFC Championship game is still Chiefs Patriots, and we'll see. But if it's in Kansas City, I might pick Kansas City in that game, and maybe it will be because I think the Pats are going to lose some games coming up here. And the 49ers are really good, so I'm not trying to diss the 49ers. Jake says, is Kalen Ballage too bad to make an impact? I mean, he's bad. I'm proud of that call because I remember this summer when people were telling me I was wrong. They love him. You should see training camp. They love him. They loved him right to the point where they handed him the ball in a regular season game and he wasn't good. But there's probably in the short term no such thing as a running back who gets volume who can't help you. For whom it's, me. If a team signed me right now, boomer that I am, and said, you're our starting running back, I would feel confident that you shouldn't add me. That would be a bad fantasy move. But if somebody who's young and is a football player gets named, gets what looks like potentially a pretty good workload, although we don't know that yet, more on that in a moment, in the very short term, in the immediate term, C.J. Anderson can be like a fantasy football playoff MVP. In the very short term, anyone can. So I don't think it's impossible, no. Now, I think Kalen Ballage is so bad that I won't be surprised if the plan actually is let's start activating guys off practice squads. I mean, they put a claim in on Josh Adams, we're led to believe, which is what led the Jets to activating Josh Adams. And now we'll see about Le'Veon Bell for this week, right? But my guess is what the way it works out is that, and I don't think there's really anybody out there in the industry saying, Kalen Ballage is your ticket to gold. But my suspicion is that it winds up being someone else, that they'll find some other young kid, and it'll be that guy who Mark Walton already wasn't going to save anybody's season because there aren't any real touchdowns there for anybody. There were more last week. But so my answer is I don't think he's unaddable. If you're totally desperate, it's not going to feel good, but it's not impossible. Albert says, I'm in a league that does not have very many teams that trade. Can you recommend something to force a few trades? I have a lot of experience with this because I wind up having to do a lot of expert leagues, and then a few of them we play them out. And in the expert leagues where we're all very, very busy throughout the entire season and we don't have time to sit around and just think about our teams, et cetera, there's never a trade. So I mentioned earlier in the show the CBS IDP league that I've talked about, which I really like that league, and my team is like 3-6 and isn't even that good because everyone got hurt. So I'm still starting Dante Pettis, not Austin Pettis, every week, and I'm still starting Tariq Cohen every week because there's nothing on the waiver wire. It's a very deep league, and everybody's hurt. Everybody on my team got hurt. So and I won the game this past week with that team. Thank you, Dante Pettis' touchdown. And there's never been a trade in that league as far as I know. There's never been a trade. How do you force them? Like in the case of the expert leagues, you can't. You're not gonna. In the case of the more civilian type league that you're talking about, it becomes kind of the culture of the league. The thing I would say is it keeps more people interested when it's some form of keeper league, when the teams who are out of it can acquire Kerryon Johnson right now, who is not going to help anybody for the rest of the year, but might have value for somebody who's planning for 2020 and can in some way, shape, or form keep that player. It at least would keep more people interested in the league longer and create more incentives for trades as opposed to, I'm just out of it, doesn't matter, forget it. Kerryon Johnson's on my team, I'm just going to cut him. It could create some more incentives, but to be honest, other than that, find another league because it is frustrating. It's frustrating when you approach people and everyone's like, I don't really want to trade. I don't like it. I think you're going to take advantage of me. Like that's not that fun. I'm with you. So I see more more running back questions like if you please help me, I'm going to start this running back or that running back. Who should I pick? Just look at my website, HarrisFootball.com. I don't have the ranks memorized. It doesn't make any sense for you to watch me go to my website and look up who I ranked higher on Tuesday when I did the ranks. Just go yourself, HarrisFootball.com. I don't see what the problem is. Stop asking, please. And then for the person who says, I know I'm spamming, but what should I try to get for Odell Beckham? Go to HarrisFootball.com, look at my rest of the season ranks, and you'll see where I have Odell Beckham. That's a great way to have a sense of what I think his neighborhood of value is. There you go. Let's see. Craig says, is Chase Edmunds dead to you in a 12-team league? I haven't seen an obituary, but I suspect I have not been looking hard enough. I mean, it depends on what dead to me means. It doesn't sound like he's going to play this week. I never, there's the frenzy when a player has a big statistical game like he had against the Giants to say, oh, well, he's good. He's great. He's good. They've got something there. And he's okay. I just think he's yet one more of these Ekeler types who's kind of a tweener and is probably never a full-time back himself, but can be a part of a successful offense. And if the offense is really rolling, then can have some pretty good value. But, and if David Johnson isn't playing, Chase Edmunds is going to be part of the solution if he's healthy, no question. If David Johnson is playing, well, we've seen what that looks like for Chase Edmunds. Sometimes he scores a touchdown because that's just the way it works. He makes a nice play. He has some skills. He's not, just a dope. But like Gio Bernard isn't a dope either. But he happens to be on a team where that role, you can't get the starting running back, in any kind of good shape on that team. So you're sure not going to get the backup running back. And in Arizona, it's somewhere in the middle. The second guy for the Chargers, I would say, for the first month of the season, the second guy the Chargers when they could block, that was something real. You could say, oh, maybe I'm going to start that guy. The second guy for the Packers, sometimes I have Jamal Williams in a deep league. Sometimes I start him because it's a good offense and he gets work. He does. Some people have to start Royce Freeman. That's a worse offense. He's going to get work, but I don't really like the second guy on a bad offense. And Arizona, somewhere in between. Kenyon Drake is now there now too, but I don't know that for sure that Kenyon Drake is taking over for Chase Edmunds. We're going to find out, right? We're not going to find out this week. Because I don't think Edmunds plays, but not dead to me. I imagine there's a world in which I'll talk about him again this year. Let's see. Honk says, could you do a video or podcast on how to set up a Dynasty league like La Liga Lebowski? I probably can't, but I can tell you it's really easy to get started. All you have to do is go on Twitter and follow @LaLigaLebowski. And that's a person named Colin, who's a great guy, and he is in the league, and he volunteered to handle that Twitter account. He's in the original, and you can talk to him, ask him questions. The actual setup is really easy because our league, the original league, the URL is public. You can search on myfantasyleague.com and search for La Liga Lebowski, and you'll find our league. The rules are public. You can go in and they're all written right out there. So I gotta say, I don't think there's enough content for anything like that would be more than just 30 seconds of me saying that because it's really super easy. The real challenge to setting up a league like that is the people that you wind up getting in it. Are they really committed to doing something that's different and funky and really deep, and you have to really pay attention and have a commissioner, because I'm kind of crazy, who will sit there with a spreadsheet for 2 hours and figure out who the player holdouts are and who is a franchise tag, and can I manage the bidding for that? Like, it's much more about the human element when it comes to a league like that rather than any difficulty in setting it up. I think the one thing I'll say is, and they're not paying me to say this, is it would be really hard to manage on anything other than, from what I've found, on anything other than myfantasyleague.com, which you have to pay for. But just, and that site takes some getting used to because it hasn't been updated in a million years. And the back end is a mess, but it is very powerful. You can customize in a way that you can't on other sites. So my two things would be think My Fantasy League and follow Colin at La Liga Lebowski. All right, before I'm going to do 10 more minutes before we get going, just thank Audible again for sponsoring today, the little live stream. Once again, become a person of the book. You can get access to me in a much smaller setting on Facebook. We have a private group for anyone who buys a novel of mine. Every Sunday, forever, you can come see me for an hour and ask me lineup questions, flex questions, all that stuff. And it's pretty fun. We have a fun time. But normally you would have to pay for those books, and some people don't like to pay for things. Right now, go to audible.com, use the promo code. I think it's HarrisTube. Check the show notes. The show notes have the right answer. I think it's HarrisTube. You can also, there's something you can text as well. You can get a trial of Audible, and in that trial, it's a free trial, they will give you one free audiobook. Pick one of mine, send me the receipt. I don't care that you didn't pay for it. You got one of my books. You're in the Person of the Book group. You'll send it to HeyHarris@harrisable.com. I'll get you in the Facebook group. You'll have access to me. I still am doing it every Sunday. That's what I do for an hour right before kickoff. It's like me and, 75 people, and I'm answering all their questions. So thanks to Audible for sponsoring. Audible is obviously great if you're an audiobook aficionado, or you want to, maybe you have a long commute and you're looking to maybe be one. Do use our trial, because I think you really like Audible, but mostly go get one of my books and become a person of the book. All right. Yeah, audible.com/HarrisTube. Thanks, Dave Hewitt. I appreciate that. Iron Man says, tell us your killer story. You want to hear my killer story? F the killers. That's my killer story. I think I'll keep that one. I told that story on the Juggernaut podcast. There is a Juggernaut podcast out there in which I told my killer story. And I probably should leave it at that. Let's see what we got here. Hey, boo, someone says. Thanks. Let's see. Are you concerned about Mark Ingram's workload at all? So I get that question a lot. Apparently, most people think he's, RB 19, and I'm like, no, he's RB 9. I don't exactly know what the numbers are in either case, to be honest. But I feel pretty comfortable with Mark Ingram. I feel the same level of comfortable with Mark Ingram, kind of against the more traditional analytical model, the same way we should feel about Lamar Jackson, different from the traditional way we evaluate fantasy quarterbacks. It's a weird offense. It's a college offense. It doesn't adhere to the normal rules. And as a running offense on a per play basis, it is exceedingly efficient. And I think Mark Ingram can be fantastic for fantasy doing what he's doing. Honestly, the workload argument, the anti-Ingram workload aspect, if you're going to make an anti-Ingram argument, making it based on workload is less persuasive to me than I'm worried all the touchdowns belong to Lamar Jackson. I'm worried Lamar Jackson's so good that when push comes to shove, we're just going to get 100 Lamar Jackson rushing touchdowns and Mark Ingram's going to be stuck with none. I still don't think that's going to happen, but that's more persuasive to me than I'm worried that Mark Ingram will only carry it X number of times, when it seems like every single time I watch them play, Mark Ingram is breaking into the open and producing big yards. And I don't feel like he's a candidate for regression for exactly that reason. It's not the running game that every other team has. Because people are so freaking scared of the quarterback, he just has lane after lane, and one missed assignment, one blown assignment, and you saw it on Monday night. Now, he's not a breakaway runner. He's going to get run down from behind. But we'll take those big, long gains every time, and then sometimes he'll score, and sometimes he'll get a goal line touchdown. And so I am still pro Ingram for the rest of the year. And believe me, this is coming from someone last year who was super anti-Alex Collins. This isn't me just completely falling for situation. I think Ingram is also pretty good too. Let's see. What else do we got? Who's the turkey mayo of the week? I don't think I have an answer for that. It was a funny question. I think turkey mayo is the turkey mayo of the week. Tevin Coleman. Derek says, hey, Boomer, how much would you charge for hourly consulting in the off season? There are companies who do that. Denny Carter runs one of them. I would suggest that you I need a nap in the off season. Let's see. This is a conceptual question from WordNack. When would you deviate from your ranks to account for possible rest of the season upside, e.g., add Gesicki over Jared Cook types, although you rank him lower because he might keep growing. I'll say that, what I'm trying to do in the rest of the season. Well, first of all, I don't think Jared Cook or Mike Gesicki is in my rest of the season ranks, right? Because I'm only doing top 100 because I'm trying to have it be sort of a trade chart, I guess. So, the message by not having either one of those guys in the top 100 is you don't want to trade for either one of those guys. But I admit, though, if I were doing a rest of the season ranks and going deep enough to have Cook and or Gesicki, Cook would come way before Gesicki. So your point is still well made. But I would think that what I'm usually doing in the rest of the season ranks is I'm trying to account for the possible upside in the future. I mean, I still have AJ Green ranked, right? I probably might not next week. It's possible I might take him out. But, I still have dudes who are injured or have been ineffective or whatever, because exactly for the reason you're saying, because I'm thinking better than this dude who's totally unexciting, better than this person who I just don't think has much more upside. So I think I would bake in my likelihood of a breakout into my still putting Cook over Gesicki. However, my ranks aren't right. I mean, I'm not getting it perfect. I'm not getting it perfect ever. I'm never getting it perfect. So if after I would want you to watch Gesicki on film, get NFL Game Pass, and watch what it looked like, because I think it didn't look awesome. He had a couple of nice plays, but it was a lot of sort of just whatever kind of plays where that can come and go. But if you, upon kind of having full assessment of the situation, if you said to yourself, no, I think he's wrong. I think Gesicki has more upside than Harris is giving him credit for. I, in my rest of the season ranks, would have Gesicki over Cook. It's a defensible position because Jared Cook is kind of blah. So it's a defensible position, at which case I think it's perfectly fine. I guess that's a long way of saying my rest of the season ranks do have what I perceive to be their upsides for the rest of the season, but I could very much be wrong. I certainly could. Viola says, I'm pretty sure it's audible.com/yachtpossum. That would be funny. I should start having Yacht Possum be the promo codes. It would just confuse people. Paul says, my friend follows your advice religiously and is in first place in our league. Can you please stop giving him good advice? But you're here. You can get good advice. Action Jackson says, thoughts on Alshon Jeffery rest of the season? I'm about to stop, so I promised I would strum. I will strum while we talk. Alshon Jeffery is like a G chord. If I were to think of one person who's like a G chord, it's like Alshon Jeffery. My thoughts are no Deshaun Jackson isn't really good for anybody. There's part of a logic that says, cool, more targets for Alshon. I think that offense is just sort of stymied for the second straight year by a lack of deep threat, and I think in the end it's going to be one of their problems, really, offensively. I think they have sort of insurmountable offensive problems. Maybe insurmountable defensive problems, too. He belongs in the wide receiver 3 in the infinite sadness. He belongs in the any given week. He certainly can go off because he's a good player, but I just don't trust it week by week. I don't feel great about it. What? Play us the mixtape. I'd rather have Jay Cutler. I'd rather have Jay Cutler. The rest of the words, but that was like the very first mixtape. I think I made it myself. Paul says, who is the best wide receiver in college football, and why is it Jerry Jeudy? It could be. He's pretty good. Gary says, would you drop Matt Ryan if you had Mahomie? I'd try to trade him if I could. I don't think I'd drop him because he's still pretty good for fantasy. Viola says, this is the quality content I subscribe for. Ryan says, Hollister or Dwelly if Kittle doesn't play, not Dwelly, but unfortunately you don't know whether it's Hollister's in the same game. No, it'll be Hollister. Thoughts on Chicago offense the rest of the season? I don't like Trubisky. You're not the only one. Should I flex Damian Williams or Juju for upside? Probably Damian Williams, but Juju has upside too. I just don't like the quarterback. Why can't you post super picks anymore? Says Nick. I can. The producers just decided not to do that this year. I adhere to what the producers say. Dave Hewitt and Dave Piper know what the heck they're doing. What do I know how to play? That I didn't play last week. How about... How does it go? Today, the great... Does Nick Foles improve the Jags offense, or is it a lateral shift? It's probably a lateral shift. Ryan says Pumpkins rule. They do. Taco Buddy guessed it. That's correct. Adam says you have Breeze ranked over Wilson. Any credence to a game script narrative that would give Wilson a higher upside? I mean, there's credence, but we just predicting game flow is very, very difficult, and we're often wrong. But, you know, I think it's okay. They're close. Wilson's great. It's okay if you have a feeling. That's cool. Dave says, who do you like tonight? I forgot who I like tonight. I have the Raiders, I think. I took the Raiders +1. So we'll see how it goes. I kind of think it's weird that the Raiders are underdogs at home. I think they're pretty good. Would you drop AJ Green? I had that conversation. Michael, go back, and when it's done, you can go back and watch it. Anyone think liked and grateful? Thanks, Gary. What do you think of Mike Williams tonight? Yeah, I mean, he's Mike Williams. He is Mike Williams. You notice this sunspot right on the camera? Look at that crap. Wow, look at that. I'm having hair problems back here. Look at that. Hair all over the place. Purple Hippo, you keep asking single position questions. I'm not going to answer. Just go to harrisfootball.com. I didn't understand that one, Raymond. Purple Hippo says, okay, Purple Hippo says, stop being a jerk to me. I'm sorry if I was a jerk. Let's do some good old wish you were here. That's what I do every week, though. How about, oh, this is a good one. We can end on this. Wow, the sun is like starting to hit this camera, huh? Baby, how was I supposed to know? Something wasn't right, yeah. Pretty baby, I couldn't let you go. Now I'm out of sight. Show me what it to be. Pretty baby, 'cause I need to go now, just because loneliness is killing me, and I must confess, still believe, if I'm not with you, I'll lose my mind. Give me a sign, need baby one more time. All right, kids, time to go. Time to go. Rex got a face palm. I was today years old when I discovered Chris Harris knows more Britney Spears lyrics than me. All right, kids. Take it easy. I'll be back for the podcast tomorrow. Cousin Josh is going to be on. HarrisReport.com for ranks. Rock on. You're the best. Thank you. We'll see you. Bye-bye.